the first day of fall. This is my very favorite season, and I love the cooler nights and days where the temperatures are below 100. We've had that for about a week now, and it's fabulous. Our friends in the southern hemisphere are going into spring. That's my other favorite season. So wherever you are in the world, I hope you're enjoying the season, whichever it is, and having beautiful weather. Last week we talked about projects for little ones or their parents or grandparents. We shared tips for working with PUL and Minky fabrics and showcased a variety of projects perfect for traveling with babies and children. If you missed last week's episode, or if you want to watch it again, remember that all of the episodes of Live with Annie are available online. You can watch them on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, or by going to ByAnnie.com live. Because everything is in one place, I find it easiest to go to the ByAnnie.com/live link. The current episode is right at the top, and there's a drop-down menu for all the past episodes. And if you watch the live there while it's live, you'll even find a chat function. We will put up the link to make it easy for you to find. To thank everyone for joining us last week, our giveaway included the supplies to make a changing station. That included the changing station pattern, soft and stable, zippers, mesh, strapping, and hardware. The lucky winner was Arlene Klatt. Arlene has responded to our message and her kit is on the way. And Arlene, we really look forward to seeing pictures of your finished changing station. Today we are going to continue sharing ideas for projects to make for little ones or their parents and grandparents. We have so many cute projects and fun ideas to share today, so I hope you're ready for some fun. Our focus will be on toys and small projects, wearables, home deck items, and quilts. Before we get into those, though, I want to show you one more little travel-related bag that's perfect for kids. Our warehouse manager, David, finished this bag in sewing class last Friday. David modified the medium-sized bag from our Project Bags 2.0 pattern to make a bag to hold his iPad in the car. He skipped the bottom border because he wanted full view of the iPad, and he added hardware to the handle at the top so that he could easily fasten the bag around the headrest in the car. That way his daughter can watch movies in the car without having to hold the iPad. David used the Monsters Minky fabric from Michael Miller for the body of the bag, and the Minky combined with the soft and stable is going to really provide some nice cushioning and protection for his iPad. And the vinyl window will let him control the device while keeping it safe inside the bag. As students finish projects in class, or when they do something really good, they get a gold star. David rides his bike to work each day, so he's decorating his bike helmet with his stars. This was David's 8th project and his first experience mitering corners when binding. I think he did a fabulous job, don't you? Be sure to send him some hearts and kudos. He'll love seeing your support. All right, we'll move that out of the way. And we're going to move on to some fun small projects that are perfect for using little bits of fabric and soft and stable. They make great baby shower gifts and could also be fun projects to make with grandkids who are learning to sew. All of these patterns that we're going to show right now were designed during our Texture Magic phase. Texture Magic, which is no longer sold, or Stitch and Steam, which is the same thing and is available on our website, are polyester fabrics that shrink when they are steamed. This makes it really easy to create texture on fabric. So each of these next patterns includes instructions for using shrinking fabric to add interesting textures. And many of these projects also incorporate soft fabrics such as Minky. Stimulating a baby's senses with texture is such a great way to keep them entertained and to help them learn and develop. It can improve their curiosity, attention span, memory, and nervous system development. Babies who are stimulated reach developmental milestones faster, have better muscle coordination, and a more secure self-image. So let's start first with a really fun and easy project. This is called Little Charmers. And I've got 3 different versions of this because each one has something different to show. So this project includes an engaging little block and a matching tag blanket for a special baby. The blanket is just the perfect size for hugging, dragging, and snuggling. And babies will love the textured blocks that are on front and the soft plush bag. So on this one, we used a low pile plush. On this one, we used a textured plush. Both of these came from our friends at Shannon Fabrics, and these are part of their Cuddle line. So those are really fun. We also add colorful, playful textured ribbons and trims all the way around the edges, giving baby something to grab, chew, and explore. We made these projects before we knew about fold-over elastic, but that would be fun to use little bits of leftover fold-over elastic on these edges too. And I think the stretchiness would be really entertaining for a little one. The pattern also includes instructions for a soft 3-inch block. Again, this is another fun and safe toy that stimulates baby with textures, colors, patterns, and sounds. Hopefully you can hear that. We added some jingle bells inside this block to give it a fun rattling noise. Here's a tip though. If you listen to this one, there is a bell inside, but you can barely hear it because we just put the bell inside and then stuffed it, and the stuffing really muffles the sound. So on these 2 blocks, we took our bells and put them in a small container. I used to use film canisters, but those are pretty much impossible to find now. So for these, I just use a little Easter egg, put the bells inside, I'd tape it so that it's good and secure, and then you can put that inside the egg and put the fiberfill around it. So it not only makes the sound more noticeable, but it also avoids a choking hazard should the little one somehow get inside the block. And just like the little tag tag blanket, there are ribbon loops around each side for baby to grab and hold. Gripping, holding, squeezing, stacking, and poking all help children strengthen the muscles in their body and also enable them to develop better eye-hand coordination. So these fun little projects are really perfect for practicing all those skills. Here's another tip, and we're going to put some pictures up for this one. This pattern would also be great for making fidget quilts for patients who need extra stimulation, such as seniors with Alzheimer's. Having something to keep their hands busy and engage the senses helps to relieve boredom and reduce loneliness. And this little quilt is just the right size for a lap. If you'd like to enhance the experience even more, you could also add zippers, laces, buckles, hook and loop flaps, and more. It's a really great way to use leftover supplies from other projects. My friend Cheryl helped a group of young women make these awesome little blankets as a service project. Cheryl said they got lots of ideas for the quilts on Pinterest. I especially loved how they recycled toys and gloves and things to create these fabulous little fidget quilts. She said that the gloves are just sewn on at the fingers, so someone could insert their hand into the glove and use the ring on their hand. I thought that was really a really fun and cute idea. So here's something else to know about Little Charmers. The pattern is designed to be made with 5-inch squares. And so a Charm Pack's pre-cut 5-inch squares are going to make it really quick and easy to make this project. Of course, if you'd rather use fabrics from your stash, full instructions for cutting the pieces are included in the pattern. In addition to the soft plush fabric that we put on the back, we also added a treat for the senses by texturing some of the fabrics on the blanket and basically all the fabrics on the block. And again, we did this using shrinking fabric such as Texture Magic or Stitch and Steam. We are going to cover a lot of tips for using shrinking fabric in some future Facebook Live episodes, but So for now, let's just go through the very basics. Again, Texture Magic, which is no longer sold, but you might have in your stash, or Stitch and Steam, which is available on our website, are polyester fabrics that shrink when they're steamed. Let me grab my pieces of that. So when you open the package and look at them, obviously you're going to get a bigger piece than this, but you're going to look at that and it looks like a piece of white polyester fabric. To produce texture, you take this fabric and stitch it to another piece of fabric so that when you shrink it, everything shrinks up. And you can get lots of different effects just by varying the fabric that you use, the stitch that you use, and the thread that you use. On this square, we used a variegated thread, and we just did a free motion design in a stipple with lines really close together. And that is what I did on this block right here. So you can see I've got a lot of really tight texture there because I did my stitching fairly close together. On this block, we used the very same variegated thread, but I just stitched straight lines using the lines that were printed on the fabric. So my stitching lines are a lot further apart, and that's going to give a very different effect on the texture. So I went from a really tight texture to a much looser texture. So that's your first step, is to put your fabric and your Texture Magic or your shrinking fabric together and stitch it. After you're finished stitching it, then you steam it. And what happens is the shrinking fabric shrinks. The ones we use shrink about 30% in each direction, and that is what produces the texture on the fabric to which it was stitched. Again, we're going to feature all these techniques in depth, probably in November. If you can't wait until then, we do have a series of over 20 videos on our website that cover lots and lots of tips for using the shrinking fabric. We'll put up the link on the screen and in the comments if you want to check those out. And basically, you just go to ByAnnie.com, click on tutorials, and then find the ones that say Texture Magic videos. All right, so that was Little Charmers, which includes a little tag blanket and a fun little block. Get that one out of the way. And let's talk next about one of my favorite little patterns. This one's called Hoot Nanny. Several people noticed the little owls on the set last week, so we're going to talk about these quirky little toys next. These have always been showstoppers anytime we take them to a show, so we know people love them. So this pattern includes directions for softies in two styles. This is Hoot, who's tall and skinny and he has a tie, and this is his girlfriend Annie, who's just the perfect shape for little hands to hug. These are really simple to make, and they require just small amounts of fabric, fiber fill, and other supplies. Accents of textured fabric add to their charm, and you can make several of the softies out of a half-yard fabric or package of Stitch and Steam or other shrinking fabric. So on this one, we texturized Minky. We stitched it using a serpentine stitch in just really irregular rows that were about 3/4 inch to 1 inch apart in a grid pattern, and I love how it makes it look like it has feathers. On this one, we did vertical lines from top to bottom using a decorative stitch. So that gives another fun effect. And of course, if you don't want to deal with the texturizing step, you can make any of these just using plain fabrics. We used Ultra Suede for making the eyes, the beak, and the feet on these. That's great because you don't have to worry about turning under edges. You could also use felted wool for those pieces. And the legs are made by inserting cotton cording into tubes. Hoot and Annie looks really cute sitting on a shelf, but again, they're also the perfect size and shape for little ones to love. One thing that I will tell you though, just know they are hard to part with once they're made. So if you're making them as a gift, I suggest that you make that decision before you even start sewing, because if you don't, you're not going to want to give them up. So that is Hoot and Annie. All right, here's another fun little soft toy, and this one is called Kyle the Crocodile. And I'm sure you can think of someone you love who would love these friendly smiling crocodiles. I have found that little boys in particular really seem to enjoy them. They like to take them and bite people's arms or have them fight each other. And, you know, they've got a nice smile on their face, and the minky and the plush fabric makes them really soft and cuddly. We also added ByAnnie's Soft and Stable in the mouth and in the scales to give them some good stability and structure. And you can also use Stitch and Steam to add texture to the fabric. Diagonal lines are going to really give you the effect of scaly croc skin. So this one we made without any texture. This one, very same fabric, but has the texture added, so you can really see how that enhances the project. And as with all of our other patterns, this pattern includes full-size pattern pieces and complete instructions for texturizing the fabric and assembling the toys. Time for a quick drink. All right, so that was Kyle the Crocodile. If you're just joining us today, we're talking about projects for little ones. We just showed some fun toys and projects to promote sensory development. Let's move on now to some projects that use texture magic to embellish wearables. And the first one we're going to talk about is our baby bibs. So our baby bibs pattern includes instructions to make bibs in 2 styles, and they make cleanup easy and mealtime fun. So the first one are the itty bitty bibs, and these can be made in 2 versions. So we have a ladybug that has texturized wings, or just a really simple bib that has a textured strip inset between 2 pieces of plain fabric. And then we also have a toddler bib, and this one features quilted fabric and an extended shoulder piece that goes over the arms and really keeps baby nice and clean. So these 2 patterns feature some texturized animals, either a lamb or a chick, where we use texture magic to texturize the bodies, and they're really easily appliqued in place using fusible thread. And the pattern includes instructions for that, but we're going to talk about the technique a little bit more in a minute. We used cotton fabric on all of these bibs, even for the textured pieces. And then we used ultra suede for the pieces like the beak, the head, the feet, because then you don't, again, have to worry about turning under raw edges, and nothing's going to fray. And it washes beautifully. If you want to add texture to the bibs, each one of these uses just a small piece of Bosal Stitch and Steam, so you can make several bibs out of a half-yard package. And again, as I said, the pattern includes complete instructions for doing the applique using fusible thread. Here's a little quick review of this. And we talked about doing fusible thread in a previous episode, but since we're using textured fabric on these, there's something that you have to do a little bit different. And the part that is different is in the very first step. Everything else is going to be the same. So the very first step of the process is to trace the design that you want to applique onto your fabric. And when we demonstrated this in an earlier episode, we traced it onto the right side of the fabric so that it would be easy to see, and we could put the fusible thread in the bobbin because we want it on the underside. But it would be hard to trace a design on textured fabric, so that's what's different here. Rather than tracing it on the right side, we're going to trace on the wrong side. And to make it easy here, I just traced a circle. You're going to cut this away, so I just use whatever is easy. In this case, I used a fine point Sharpie, but just trace that around on the wrong side. Then what you're going to have to do, because you want the fusible on the wrong side, is you're going to have to wind a bobbin, on that one you're going to wind a bobbin with your fusible thread. On this one, you're going to be sewing from this side because this is where your line is, so you're going to put the fusible thread through the needle. You're probably going to change and need a larger needle. I would recommend a 116 top stitch needle, and then you're going to put something really smooth in the bottom and slick. I would use either Sew Fine or Bottom Line or something like Monopoly. All right, again, if you are using plain fabric that's not textured and you mark it on the top, you can put the fusible in your bobbin, and I just wind it by hand onto the bobbin and the slick thread in top. All right, so then you're going to proceed either method the same way. So after your design is traced, then you are going to stitch around that design, and you're going to stitch just inside the line that you've marked. And then you're going to cut around each piece as close as you can get to that stitching without cutting the stitching away. Then with the right side up, you're going to position the piece that you want to applique on your fabric. So in this case, we would put our body of our lamb on with the legs underneath it, and you're going to fuse it in place. You're going to set the iron at the appropriate temperature for the fabric you're using. So if you're using cotton fabric, set your iron on cotton. And I like to add a little bit of steam. So once you've got that on there, you're going to put your iron on it, a few seconds in each place, and fuse it in place. I find it's helpful if you wiggle the iron a little bit as you go, because what happens is the fusible thread melts, and that's what fuses your layers together. And when it melts, it releases the upper thread, so you can just pull that top thread away. If you find that it doesn't come away right away, just put your iron back on it and heat it again, and that usually softens it up so that you can get it away. Then your last step is to finish those raw edges using a decorative stitch. And if you've got just a single layer of fabric, I think it's helpful to put a stabilizer under it. On something like this where you're fusing onto quilted fabric, that's not necessary to do. And the stitch that we like to do the most is a blanket stitch. And on here we did the blanket stitch around all the pieces, and then on the head and the wings we did a mirror image of that blanket stitch and went around them again to add the effect of feathers. For the ultra suede pieces that we use for the feet and the legs and the head, we just do a straight stitch just inside that outside edge. So those are really fun and easy to make, and a great way to learn some techniques of texturizing fabric and using fusible thread for applique. And again, of course, if you prefer, you can skip the texturizing, you can skip the applique and make the bibs with plain fabrics or soft fabrics like minky. So for these, we used some leftover quilted fabrics from the projects that we showed you last week, that we used the minky from Michael Miller. And instead of making bindings or using packaged bindings, we used fold-over elastic to bind the edges. We weren't aware of fold-over elastic when we designed this pattern, so we didn't include that in the pattern, but if and when we update it, we will be sure to do this. And you need about 1.5 yards of fold-over elastic to bind each of these small bibs, so a 2-yard package is plenty. On this one, we have minky on both sides, and it's nicely reversible. It's got soft and stable inside. It's just really soft and yummy, and it's going to really protect baby. When we bind, here's another one that we made with just plain fabric, and here's one that we have in process that I wanted to show you. So when we bind the outside edge first, and then we do the upper edge and let those, so we center it and figure out where to start and let the ends extend so that we can use those to make the ties. So when you're going to bind this with fold-over elastic, again, you can put either the shiny side out, as we did on this one, or the matte side out, as we did on this one. I actually think the matte side is a little bit softer, so I did that on this one, but it's just one easy step. So you're going to just align your fabric with the fold that's woven down the middle, fold it over, and then stitch along the edge. And I found that it helped a little bit if I stretched the elastic a little as I went around, especially when I was doing this top on this concave curve. So just go all the way around and bind that, then find the center on your piece here, find the center on your bib, figure out where you need to start, and finish stitching this. So those are just fun, simple ways to make little bibs and great for using up your leftover quilted fabrics. Here's the toddler bib that we made using quilted fabric left over from another project. And again, we've got soft and stable quilted between the layers, so that's going to make it really sturdy to really help protect the baby's clothes. And we even added a pocket in the bottom of this one to catch crumbs, and we just used cotton binding for all the way around the edges on these. These little baby bibs are so much fun to make, and since they use just little bits of fabric and supplies, they're really good for using leftovers from your other projects. And they make awesome shower gifts for anybody who has little ones. So that again is our pattern called Baby Bibs. That pattern name is not terribly creative, but it gets the message across of what it is. All right, if you are looking for a really extra special project for a new little one, you are going to love this next one. This is our Heirloom Baby Ensemble, and it makes a beautiful christening gown and accessories. It would be a wonderful family heirloom for you to make. And the best thing about it is you can save time and achieve the look of hand smocking by easily texturing the fabrics using the shrinking fabric like Stitch and Steam. It also has beaded lace embellishments, beads added on, and ribbons to make really pretty but really easy embellishments. We made this set using a white satin, but we've also made this out of silk, and that makes a really beautiful ensemble as well. So the pattern includes complete step-by-step instructions for texturizing the fabric, and what we did on here was just sewed a simple grid pattern using a serpentine stitch. It also explains how to assemble the gown, which has a self-lined bodice and a border trim that uses the texturized fabric, and the pattern also includes instructions for a sweet little bonnet and some beautiful little slippers. So your precious little one is going to look like an angel in this. And the pattern is designed to fit infants, newborn to about 6 months. So that is Heirloom Baby Ensemble. Next, let's look at Little Miss Sunshine. So this one is perfect for a special little lady for summertime, and again, we incorporated textured fabric into it. Again, if you want to skip the texturing, you certainly can and just make it with plain fabrics. This one is sized to fit infants from 6 months to a year, and it includes full-size pattern pieces for the dress, bloomers, and sun hat. 1/2 yard package of the Bosal Stitch and Steam is sufficient to texturize all the fabric for both the dress and the hat, and you don't use any on the little bloomers that go under the dress. And for this one, we did similar to what we did on that little Hoot and Annie owl. We set our machine on a decorative flower stitch, and we put in a color of thread that would contrast with the fabric. We used a trilobal polyester thread and just stitched straight lines up and down, and that gives a really fun effect when it's texturized. So that's Little Miss Sunshine, and again for about 6 months to 1 year. Here's another one for when the baby or the little one starts growing up. So this one is called Tickled Pink, and like the others, it's designed to be made with fabric texturized with Stitch and Steam. But again, as we said, skip it if you don't want to deal with that. And this pattern includes instructions for a dress, again with a lined bodice, a little sun hat, and a cute little purse. And these are sized to fit toddlers, about 1 to 2 years old. The purse, of course, would be appropriate for all ages, and I've even had adults who say, that's just the size purse I need when I go out. I'm going to make that for me. So to make this set, you need a full yard package of Stitch and Steam to do the whole outfit. And on this one, we again used a trilobal polyester thread, but we set our machine on a serpentine stitch, which is like a zigzag stitch, but it does stitches each way and it does it more rounded. And we just did an irregular grid pattern. This is the design that we use the most often when we're texturizing because it's really easy to do, but it just gives a really fun effect. All right, so that was Tickled Pink. And then the last one that we have is Flower Power. So this little dress is accented with textured fabric on the bodice, and the pattern also includes instructions for making these cute little folded fabric flowers. And the pattern also includes a cute little coordinating purse. This is a fold-up purse. It has a hook and loop closure. Inside is a zippered pocket, a clear vinyl ID pocket, and another slip pocket at the bottom for money and things. It also has a carrying strap and a cute little folded flower accent. You could make just the wallet out of more boyish fabric, skip the strap and flower, and it would make a cute little wallet for a young man as well. One really special addition to this pattern is that we also use the shrinking fabric to gather the ruffles on the skirt. And you are going to love how quick and easy it is to gather fabric in that method. So I've got a little picture here that I'm going to show you. So the first thing that you're going to do is take your scraps of shrinking fabric and cut it into about 1/2-inch strips. And then you're going to sew that to the top edge of the piece that you want to gather. And if it's the bottom, we suggest hemming it first because it'll just be easier. So you're going to put that in and then you're going to steam it. And when you do that, it causes gathers to form. In our cases, it wasn't as much as we wanted, so we added another layer on top of that already partially shrunk piece and steamed it again, which basically doubled the amount of gathers. The real beauty of this method is that you don't have to stitch that double line of long stitches and pull on the threads and hope they don't break before you get all the way across the strip. And there's no need to adjust the gathers. They are distributed evenly all the way across the strip, and you can cut the gathered strip to any length and not worry about losing the gathers because you cut the gathering thread. So you are really going to love how quick and easy it is to make ruffles when you use these. And I just wanted to show you a view there of the inside where you can see that little bit of texture magic all along that ruffle. So Flower Power again includes complete step-by-step instructions for texturizing the fabric, using the shrinking fabric to gather the ruffles, and assemble the dress, which has a lined bodice, and make the little purse. And this pattern is sized to fit a child from age 3 to 4. One thing that I want to mention is all of these little dresses and accessories include only the size that's mentioned in the pattern. I'm not into making wearable patterns, and doing one was all I could get done. But once you've made one, you're going to understand the concept of texturizing the fabric, and you will be able to modify other patterns to use it. So basically what you do is you use the shrinking fabric to create a new piece of textured fabric. Once that's done, you treat that textured fabric just as if it was plain fabric, so you cut the pieces for your project from that textured fabric. And again, we're going to talk a lot more about texturizing fabric in an upcoming Facebook Live or two. So until then, if you want more information, be sure to check out our Texture Magic videos that are on our tutorials page. All right, time for a quick drink. And a little bit of cleanup here so I can get to everything else. If you're just joining us today, we are talking about projects for little ones. We showed some toys and projects to promote sensory development. We showed some bibs and some fun dresses and accessories. Let's move on now to some projects for decorating the nursery or child's room. So in addition to Changing Station that we featured last week, Catch-All Caddy is one of my go-to shower gifts. This little caddy is so perfect for organizing diapers, clothing, and other supplies on a changing table, and the handles make it really easy to move it from room to room. There are pockets all the way around the outside, and these can hold little items like brushes and combs, nail clippers, thermometers, lotions, toys, and more. We've clipped a little toy onto the side of this one. Inside are bellowed dividers that expand to hold diapers, wipes, books, ointments, clothes, and more. This little caddy is also perfect for little ones to organize and carry toys, art supplies, and more. If your space is limited, our In Control pattern makes a smaller version of the caddy. It's basically got all the features of Catch-All Caddy, it just has a smaller footprint. My grandson in Montana especially loves his catch-all caddy in control. And my daughter said that when he was really little, he would spend hours exploring all the pockets and dividers. We're going to put a picture of him up, and you can see they hold a multitude of little boys' treasures, or even little boys. He uses them now to hold toys and books, and they're really easy for him to move from room to room, and a great way to keep the playroom tidy. So that, again, is catch-all caddy and in control. Here is another pattern that is perfect for organizing toys, clothing, and more in a baby's room or a child's room, and this is called Room with a View. So this pattern includes sturdy bins in 3 versatile sizes. They have convenient handles on the top and on each side, so it's really easy to move and carry them, and kids love dragging them around. The bins zip shut so that everything inside is safe and secure, and there's a vinyl window on front so you can see what's inside. We've got this one filled with blocks. This one has all my grandson's softies in it, and you'd be amazed how many you can fit inside there. But it makes it easy for kids because they know which one if they're looking for a particular toy, they know where to look for it. There is a zippered mesh pocket on the lid of each where you can put maybe manuals if you've got Legos or something in here, or other small items. And each of these sizes is designed to coordinate really well with standard sized cube shelves like the IKEA Kallax type. So it allows you not only to be more organized, but also to have a fun way to decorate a room. And I've said this before, but Room with a View is my daughter-in-law Glow's very favorite pattern. She loves how much fits in each bin and how well they control the clutter. And her son loves them too. Every single time we make a new set, he asks if he gets to keep them. I think he's probably got at least 4 or 5 sets by now. He loves these. He's a little boy who loves to be organized, like his mama. Sometimes, huh? All right, here's another fun little way to control the clutter and get things organized. And these are our pattern called nesting baskets. So these are really fun and easy to make, and the pattern includes instructions for 3 sizes. So as you can see, when empty, they nest inside each other for neat and compact storage, but they also have sturdy bodies and lids, so if you want, you can stack them for attractive display. They also have labels on each one so that you can label the contents that are in them, and we did this with like kids' clothes, but there's all kinds of things you could put in there. And again, the soft and stable makes them really strong and sturdy and makes them really easy to make. I also like that they have optional handles on each side, so they're easy to carry. My friend Cheryl made a set of these nesting baskets for her grandkids one year, and she said they spent hours just carrying them around and filling them with all their treasures. And of course, depending on the fabrics you choose, these would be great for a sewing room, a bathroom, an office, craft room, basically any room in the house. Again, just vary the fabric for a totally different look. All right, that is nesting baskets. I am really thirsty today, so one more drink. Again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about projects for little ones, from toys and little projects to wearables, and some ideas for decorating and organizing the nursery. We're going to close with some ideas for fun quilts for little ones. I have not written a pattern for a quilt in a really long time, but quilting is what got me started in the pattern business, so this is a perfect time to revisit some fun patterns from the past. And we're going to start with a pattern for really simple quilts, again made using shrinking fabric. So this is called Bubbly Babies, and it is one of the very first patterns that we made when we introduced the original shrinking fabric, which was called Texture Magic. It was a Superior Threads product, and Heather, who is Mother Superior, and I collaborated on lots of projects, as you can see, to showcase all the fun ways that you could use fabric that was textured. And at the time, Heather had a brand new granddaughter, and we really noticed how much Abby loved texture. if you were holding her outside, she'd be running her hands along the bricks or the tree trunks. And if you were inside, her hands were running all over the plush toys and all the loopy yarns on the blankets and things. So as we said earlier, touching and feeling texture is a really great way to encourage brain development in little ones. So we designed these quilts to be made using textured fabrics. And the pattern includes instructions for 2 sizes. So the first is a 40-inch square baby quilt. And then we did a 40 by 47-inch crib quilt. So it's got a couple more squares. And you can make either one of these sizes using just one package of the shrinking fabric. You only need 4 fat quarters for the textured blocks on the smaller quilt, 5 fat quarters on the larger quilt, and then a bit of yardage for the plain blocks, sashing, and borders. And on this one, we picked plain fabrics because we really wanted to showcase the textures. And I think we did pretty much the same stitch on all of this. I think these are all done with a serpentine stitch done in a grid. These are done with a straight stitch done in a grid, and a variety of different fabrics. And you can see how the plain blocks are perfect places to embellish with some fun quilting designs. Or if you'd like, you can pick brighter fabrics in a variety of colors to match the decor of the nursery. But as we said, babies really love running their hands along these textured blocks, and the quilts are just really fun and easy to make. This would be a great project to do with a little one and let them do the texturizing, let them see how the blocks shrink and produce the texture, and then, I mean, depending on how little they are, they could probably help put the quilt together, or at least they could help with that part. So that again is called Bubbly Babies, and just a fun, quick, and easy quilt. The next one I'm going to show is one of my very favorite quilts of all time. And this one is called Baa Baa Black Sheep. We're going to have to turn it around. This was quilted by Veronica Nurmi, and I thought she did a fabulous job on it. She had a design that looked like little sheep that she did around it, and lots of thread color changes there. But this quilt is designed by the popular nursery rhyme that we all know, and it makes a really great crib quilt or an eye-catching wall hanging in a baby or child's room. So it has 9 sheep frolicking across the meadows, flowers blooming along the rows, and then little 3-dimensional bags that open to hold treats. Ours are stuffed with wool batting. What else? And you can use your favorite method of applique on these, either needle turn, fusible, or even raw edge, or the pattern includes instructions for doing applique using the fusible thread process that we talked about earlier. This pattern was designed before we discovered how easy it was to create texture using shrinking fabric. If I made it again, I would definitely texturize the fabric for these sheep's bodies like we did on the bibs. And I think it would even be fun to do a little minky fabric for those. You could just cut a 9 by 12-inch piece of fabric and stitch and seam for each sheep that you want to do. Stitch them together using the stitch and thread of your choice. I'd probably do a serpentine stitch or an all-over meander stitch, probably do something different on each one. And then once that's steamed, then you proceed just as the pattern is written. So again, that is Baa Baa Black Sheep, and definitely a fun quilt to make. All right, one last set of quilts, and this includes 3 different quilts. Let's see, how are we going to do this? And the beauty of this particular pattern is that it is perfect for making with fat quarters or scraps. We're going to grab these out. So they're really good for beginners, and all 3 of these quilts can be made with just a dozen fat quarters and then some yardage for your background and borders. The pattern includes really easy cutting instructions that show you how to cut those fat quarters efficiently so that you get the pieces for all 3 quilts. And then you also have step-by-step instructions for cutting and piecing them. And again, there's 3 styles. All of these are also time-saving piecing methods, so your doing strip piecing on these and then cutting them apart. So they're really quick and easy to make. They'd also be perfect for teaching basic sewing and quilting to new sewists. My thought is you could gather the fabric and get everything cut out and then plan a sewing weekend with some new quilters. And let me show you what the quilts look like. So this, actually we're going to start on this one. This one is quick to make. They get easier as they go. So this one would be a great one for someone maybe who's a little bit more experienced or has a little bit more confidence. This one is called Grandma's Dearest in the pattern, and it's an awesome quilt to be made with scraps. So just long rows of diagonal pieces separated by sashing. This one is called Mama's Choice, and it's a good sized throw. I don't know if you can see on there how big it is, but it uses squares that you cut in half or sew down the middle, cut in half to make stars. And you're not going to be able to see it probably here, but you've got stars that form all the way around. That is a big quilt. And then the last one, which is the quickest one to make, is called Baby Zone. And it's just bigger squares. Again, this would be a great one to make with your grandkids. So if you've got some fat quarter packs, again, it just takes a dozen fat quarters plus some yardage for your background, and you've got 3 quilts made out of it. We made all 3 of these using some really bright, whimsical fabrics from Moda, but here is one that I made using flannels, and you can see that gives you a different effect. I would love to make this quilt using some of my Cafe scraps from my stash. I think that would make a really awesome quilt. So just by varying the fabrics, you get some really different looks on these, and fun and easy to do if you enjoy making quilts. So I hope you enjoyed seeing all these fun projects to make for little ones, and that you got some inspiration for a new project or more. Even if you don't have little ones in your life, remember that many of these projects can be adapted for use by kids of all ages just by varying the fabrics. And again, if you want to learn more about easily creating texture on fabric, be sure to join us later this fall when we will share lots of information about that fun technique. We'll show how to achieve different effects by varying the fabric, stitching, and threads, and we'll show all kinds of ways to use the textured fabric. Again, until then, find our series of Texture Magic videos at our website by just going to the ByAnnie.com, clicking on the Tutorials tab, and then scrolling down in the Product and Technique Tutorials until you find the one that says Texture Magic Tutorials. Just above that one, you'll also find the Fusible Thread Tutorials with info about how to applique using fusible thread. All right, someone asked, will you show the back of the bibs? I will if I can find them. Quilts take up a lot more room than bags and purses. All right, here we go. So on this one, I mean, it's easily reversible, except that your pocket would be on the wrong side. These are very easily reversible. And these, you do see the stitching from the applique on the back. If that bothered you, you could always put a lining on there, but pretty basic. On these that have the strips, the back is just a solid piece. On all of these, they have a lining on them. The quilted ones, you just quilt through that. Sorry. Could you see it? All right. Next question was, do you have any tips for modifying the bibs, maybe to add pockets or make it larger? We're going to hopefully get a new pattern made out because I would love to do that. But what I did on this one to make the pocket is I just decided how big I wanted it to be. And I used the same pattern for this to cut around there. And then I just cut across for the height that I wanted. To make it larger, I mean, you could easily add. What we did on these, the pattern is designed so that you cut the front and back and there's a seam allowance built in that you stitch around here and then you just bind the top. On these that I made and used the fold over elastic, I cut away that seam allowance before I cut it out of the fabric so that it was smaller, but you could easily make that larger if you wanted. And someone asked, can we get a close-up of the baby heirloom ensemble? And yes, we can. So I'm going to move these out of the way. And then so yeah, if you can key in on how that texture looks on the front. And then you can see the bodice is all lined, and then the hem gets sewn on, and there's a lining on that as well. The little bonnet has the texture magic here with a back and a little ruffle, and then the little booties or slippers are just texture magic on top. They're lined. They have some soft and stable in them to make them really soft and cushiony on the bottom, and then a little ribbon that ties around the top. Is that good? All right. Yeah, that just makes such a beautiful dress. And the ones made with silk are much softer and a really different effect, but I really love it made with the satin. And we're going to talk next about a sewing giveaway that Shannon Fabrics is doing this month. And I was perusing their website yesterday when I was writing this, and I noticed that they have some really beautiful satins. So if you're looking for that, they might be a good source to let you know what stores might have it. Let's move on now to some announcements. As you may know, September is National Sewing Month, and as we told you earlier, our friends at Shannon Fabrics are hosting the Ultimate National Sewing Month giveaway to celebrate. So if you're in the continental U.S., you could win over $1,000 in sewing goodies, including some fun prizes from ByAnnie. There is still time to enter, and entry is free, so you just have to fill out the form on the Shannon Fabrics blog before the end of this month, and we will put a link in the comments that will take you to the blog with the form and all the details. So if you're interested in that, make sure you sign up for that before the end of the month. Also, Shannon makes really fabulous plush fabrics like cuddle and faux fur, as well as terry cloth, waffle fabric, satin, and more. So if you want to learn tips for sewing and quilting with those fabulous fabrics, be sure to check out the weekly Facebook Live that they do called Sew Together Tuesday. My good friend Teresa Coates, who is the national educator for Shannon Fabrics, goes live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And Teresa has so many great tips to share and is just such a genuinely nice and fun person. So it's really fun to hang out with her every week. Teresa and her trusty sidekick, Hawk, took Sew Together Tuesday on the road in early July, and they spent the past 12 weeks visiting shops all around the U.S. In addition to filming their weekly Facebook Live at those shops, Teresa also taught classes in each shop, and students made stuffed animals, pillows, quilts, and more. I really enjoyed following their adventure, and I was especially thrilled when Teresa and Hawk made a stop in St. George on Monday on their way home. I gave them a tour of the warehouse and video studio, we talked shop, and it was just great to have a nice visit with them. I even got to ride in the cuddle wagon. While they were here, Teresa and I made plans to collaborate on some fun projects, so watch for more information coming really soon about those. We also wanted to let you know about another fun contest that's happening now. Our friend Scott Fortunoff, who is president of the Jaftex Corporation, is hosting his annual #ScottSentMe contest. Like us, Scott is all about supporting local quilt shops. So this contest encourages makers to visit as many shops as they can throughout the U.S. and Canada during the months of September, October, and November. Scott's even posted a list of shops who have opted in for the challenge, and we're going to post a link to that list. So if you're looking for shops in your area, or you want to take a fun road trip, it's a really great place to start. One important thing to note is that a store does not have to be on the list to count, so be sure to track each and every store that you visit. Then post pictures at the stores you visit on your own Instagram or Facebook page using the hashtag #ScottSentMe2021. We'll put that up so that you can see that too. And then on November 30th, Scott's going to post on Instagram and Facebook asking people to let him know how many shops they visited. And he'll go through all those entries, and then he'll contact the top vote getters for proof, and then he'll pick 10 winners. Prizes total over $3,000, and the person who visited the most stores gets a $1,000 shopping spree, so $500 at 2 stores. And they have to be stores who carry Jaftex fabrics, but you know, they carry all of our favorites, so that's not going to be difficult at all. Scott has put all the particulars on his blog, and there are quite a few rules, so make sure you check them out. And if you're participating in a shop hop, like the All Carolinas shop hop, which is starting soon, like next week, or if you want to do some fun road trip time with your friends, this is a really great opportunity to do something you love and support our local quilt shops at the same time. Speaking of local quilt shops, let's move on now to our featured local quilt shop of the week. As we've said often, we love hosting our local quilt shop contest each February. The contest encourages sewists to vote for their favorite quilt shop and share a little bit about what makes them special. So to continue the fun and support of those businesses, each week we highlight a store and some of their voter submissions during Live with Annie. Today, we are traveling to the Atlanta area of Georgia to visit a Scarlet Thread in McDonough, Georgia. This fabulous shop is owned by Karen Taylor, who has to be one of the funniest, happiest, most entertaining shop owners out there. Visiting with Karen at market has always been a highlight for me, and I was so tickled to catch one of her recent Facebook Live events as I was lazing around in bed on a Saturday morning. I really hadn't realized how much I missed her happy, smiling, upbeat personality and her fun Southern draw. So it was such a treat to get to see Karen again, even if it was just on Facebook. Voters in our contest raved about the customer service and the joyful atmosphere at A Scarlet Thread. Zelma listed what she loves about the store. First, the people, especially Karen Taylor. Great service, and the best, almost daily live shows. It is the highlight of my day to enjoy time laughing, learning, and creating new friendships in this crazy time we're all going through. Pam said, I have sewn more in the last 6 months since discovering them online. The live videos, supplies, fabrics, personalities, and projects make this store stand out above the rest. And Carol said, the staff is so welcoming and helpful. It's just such a joy to walk in the door. So we want to say thank you to Karen and Sarah and all the team at A Scarlet Thread for making sewing and quilting so much fun. And to local quilt shop owners around the world who work so hard to keep us happy and entertained. You are definitely the thread that binds us all together and keeps us smiling. So thank you, thank you. And we want to thank all of you too for joining us today. It really means so much to all of us that you take the time to be with us each week. And so to say thank you, we have a really fun giveaway today, if I can find it. All right, so our giveaway today is our Room with a View pattern, which again makes these fun bins with windows and zippered lids. So you're going to get the pattern, which includes a coupon to get the add-on video that goes with it free. You're going to get a 16 by 54 inch package of our new ByAnnie's Premium Clear Vinyl, which you'll use to make the windows, and you will have lots left over for another project, and a 2-yard package of ByAnnie's Soft and Stable. So that's enough soft and stable and vinyl to make all 3 sizes with, again, leftovers for other projects. Note that Soft and Stable comes in black or white, so if you have a preference for colors, let Trevor know when he reaches out to let you know that you won. And here's what you need to do to win. And remember, you have to do this on Facebook. It doesn't work if you're watching on YouTube. So the first thing is leave us a comment, and that can be whatever you want to say. Tell us something you learned today. Which ByAnnie pattern that we showed today would you like to make next? Will you be making it for someone special? Maybe let us know who that is. If you have any special tips and tricks to share, we'd love to see those too. Then the second thing, if you've used shrinking fabric to create texture, if you've appliqued using fusible thread, or if you've sewn with plush fabrics, if you have any tips on those, let us know. We always love to see them. Second, we ask that you tag a friend. We want to spread the word, so please share it with someone who you think would enjoy our weekly Facebook Live presentations. And if you don't know how to tag, it's really simple to do. All you have to do is type the @ symbol and then type in their name that they use on Facebook. You'll see their name pop up along with their picture, so you can make sure you've got the right person. If you do, just click on that, type in your comment, and submit it. We are going to pick winners from comments made by midnight tonight, so you've got 9 more hours to watch and comment. Then finally, don't forget to check your Facebook messages, because Trevor's going to notify our winner and ask you to email him your shipping address. And when he does that, or you do that, you can let him know which color of Soft and Stable you prefer. All right, Trevor says we have one more question from Sue, who said, have you made the bibs with PUL fabric? And do you put it on the front or on the back with the shiny side? I have not made bibs with PUL, but I have a bib for my grandson that I bought that had PUL. This was one I had for a long time. And I would say that you would put the soft side, I think, on the front and the more laminated side on the back. However, if you want to wipe it clean, you might want to do it the other way. Personally, I think it works either way. The ones that I had were made with a decorative PUL, so I think it had the more soft side on the front, but you can use it either direction. And probably if you were making it out of that, you could get by with just that as the layer and then maybe use the fold-over elastic to bind it with. So if anybody has tips for that. I have not sewn a lot with the PUL. I haven't tried it on bibs. I didn't know about it when I designed that pattern, but it's something that we do want to play with for a future pattern, so let us know if you've got any tips for that. Again, thank you all so much to everyone who joined us today. We will be back next week at 2 p.m. Mountain Time with our month-end Tips, Tricks, and Techniques episode, and we've got some really great info to share, so make sure you don't miss it. Until then, happy stitching.